Let's start the show by talking about my sponsor, Paloma Verde, and their new website, palomaverdecbd.com. Head over to palomaverdecbd.com and check them out for all of your CBD needs. They've got the gummies, tinctures, salves. So if you're needing anything to maybe chill you out, something to help you get mellowed out, something for your joint pain and stiffness, go over to palomaverdecbd.com and give them a check out. Carlos and Vanessa are awesome people. They run a great company. And if you enter the promo code FACTS at checkout, you'll get 25% off your order. Plus, any order over $75, you get free shipping. So, I don't know what you're waiting for. Head over to palomaverdecbd.com and check them out. Let's start the show. This episode will be completely taken out of context. Welcome to the Fact Check This podcast.
All right, Fact Check This podcast. And today, I realize I always say this one's going to be a short one, and then I usually go my normal length. But this one is going to be a short one, and I'm not going to go my normal length. Guaranteed. That's a lie. I'll probably end up going long on this one, actually. I don't typically like to talk about like current events. If you haven't noticed from kind of the direction of the show over the last several months, I would say I have really gotten away from a whole lot of current eventsy type stuff and moved more in the direction of looking at articles, looking at different stuff that kind of takes a specific direction. Like talking about mental health a couple weeks ago, talking about rest, talking about the amendments, talking about the Civil War. I've tried to like pick specific topics and stay away from just like the news of the week. If you want to hear me talk about that kind of shit, go check out The Morning After on YouTube or Facebook. You can find us we have a Facebook page and a Facebook group. And there's also a Twitter account. It's the best way to find it on any of those is it's at DE Morning After. Check out the show. If you want to find us on the YouTube channel, the best way to do that is to search YouTube for Vasectomy Clubhouse. It's the top search result for some reason. But anyway, if you want to hear me talk about current events regularly, you can check us out every Monday, Wednesday, Friday, 7:30 a.m. Central, 8:30 Eastern. Me, Mark Metz, Clyde, and Dag, when we have a lot of fun. But this week, specifically for the show, I really felt it was necessary to hit on this shooting thing. So we had 3 shootings over the weekend, and 2 of them have since been completely scrubbed from the news entirely. They may as well not exist because one of them was a black guy and the other one was an older Taiwanese man. Nobody cares. It's not white supremacy. On the other hand, you got the one in Buffalo, which just seems completely fucked up and ridiculous in every possible way that it could. Like, if you look at this guy's manifesto, holy shit balls, is it just a gobbledygook hodgepodge of buzzwords and all the things that get everybody's trigger warnings up in arms or whatever. I don't know how a trigger warning works. Obviously, I don't get triggered very easily. Like, it feels really fetty if you look at it. And it is such a word salad hodgepodge of just dumbassery. Like you would almost swear it came straight from one of Kamala Harris's speechwriters. Like, it's insane. And then there was all the stuff with the gun. Like, for people who have seen pictures of the gun, like he had all this stuff like scribbled on there, and I don't know. It just seemed like, I think something that I've had a problem with this current iteration of late stage empire government that we're going through is that a lot of times the bullshit is like way too on the nose, and it's almost offensive. It's like, do you really think we're that retarded that we don't realize that this is like completely set up. Like this is not real. But I mean, they're right. Like you have to remember that if the average person is pretty fucking stupid, at least half people are stupider. So, I mean, they are completely right. We are absolutely that retarded. I mean, look at the last 2 years. Fuck. So anyway, when you're looking at everything with this shooter over the weekend, and then you find out that this kid has been as well, like 17, 18 years old, took a 200-mile one-way trip to go scout and case the place the day before he went. 200 miles one way. And then came back to then turn around and go back the next day. It's just, I'm not buying it. I'm not buying it. It just seems too outlandish. So anyway, and then like the body armor and everything else. I mean, it reminded me of the Yui Bowl movie Rampage from like 2009 or 10 about the guy who like straps up with body armor and guns and goes marching through his town just shooting people. Like whoever the federal agent that set this whole thing up was like a fan of a lot of the same sort of stuff that I was watching in like movies and television back in the early 2000 teens and the late 2000s. Like the manifesto was very reminiscent of Dexter season 2 and Dexter's manifesto that he gave him whenever he thought he was going to get caught. This whole shooting felt like it was ripped straight out of the movie Rampage. I mean, it's just fucking insane. And all that stuff is far enough, in the past that other than nerds like me, not a lot of people probably even get those references. I mean, send me a message, leave me a comment. Like, how many people hearing me say this get the references of the Dexter Manifesto and Yui Bowl's Rampage? Like, I would be surprised if more than 5 of you knew what both of those were. So the whole thing just seems so ridiculous. But then you find out that this guy has been on a watch list for roughly a year, maybe more. And within the course of this last year, he's been taken into FBI custody and questioned. And then they turned him loose. And like the really disturbing and kind of, for lack of a better way of putting it, like the troublesome thing about that is the fact that that's kind of been the case for a whole bunch of these shooters. So if you just go to a Brave browser, type in shooter questioned by FBI prior to shooting, this is what you get. FBI admits Boulder shooter was on their radar prior to killings. FBI warned about alleged Parkland shooter 5 months before the shooting. Indianapolis shooting. FBI questioned the killer last year. Like the Dylan Roof, he had been on a watch list. He had been questioned. Sandy Hook. Supposedly these Sandy Hook shooters were, if you believe that Sandy Hook wasn't an entire hoax, which I'm not saying it was. I've seen some of the documentaries on that. I think those have been debunked possibly, but regardless of whether it was real or not, it seemed pretty, it seemed pretty staged too, like all this shit. But I mean, The Sandy Hook shooters, I'm pretty sure they had been on FBI watch lists and had been questioned by the FBI. Like, shit, the subway shooter in New York a few weeks ago. I mean, this guy had a YouTube channel of just like him spewing all this crazy shit. I get videos taken down for reading from actual studies that were conducted by Anthony fucking Fauci. And that guy got to keep his YouTube channel. But he's been on FBI watch lists for a while too. He's been questioned by the feds within the last year too. And then for whatever you think about the New York subway shooting and the fact that it did look pretty staged, and the fact that there was some, pretty questionable shit surrounding the whole thing. Kind of like the Las Vegas shooting, kind of like Parkland, kind of like Sandy Hook, kind of like this shit in Buffalo. There's a pattern here. And the pattern is not white supremacists going after black people. The pattern is not Tucker Carlson driving these people to be violent. The pattern is the fucking feds. So this was an interesting article, and I forgot to pull it up on the screen, so it's not. I've got it on my phone, but this was an Oklahoma bomb plot. So this guy was planning a bombing in Oklahoma, and the family said that the FBI knew that the suspect was schizophrenic and that they pushed him to it, that they talked to him consistently, and they manipulated him to try to do this. The Gretchen Whitmer kidnapping scheme. There were more feds than there were actual conspirators involved in that. Of the 5 conspirators to arrest or to kidnap Gretchen Whitmer, it was 5 feds. It was seven conspirators to kidnap Gretchen Whitmer. 2 actual mentally ill dudes, and 5 fucking feds. And the feds, the FBI, has even come out and admitted that. They have come out and fucking said it. I'm almost positive all the charges have been dismissed against these guys because they were set up by the feds, because they were instigated by these feds. There are so many of these cases. Let's see. Family says man charged in FBI right-wing terror sting is mentally ill, incapable of the attack, and he was targeted by FBI agents. You can't make this shit up. The Garland, Texas, the guy that shot up, I'm pretty sure it was a target. Anyway, FBI agents goaded the Garland, Texas shooter to tear up Texas, raising new alarms about the Bureau's methods. Like all of this stuff, like you just saw the search there, like the stuff that I pulled up here, it was just a basic search. It took me all of like 5 minutes to find 6 different articles that just like from the past 3 or 4 years. You know what the problem is? The problem is that the federal government is using their enforcement arm to create this whole thing that doesn't fucking exist. They're finding these mentally ill people who sound off about something or who somebody reports them, and then they use that. They manipulate them, they twist them, they turn them up in knots, and then they turn them loose. and have them do something terrible. Know the enemy. Know the enemy. And it's not the right. It's not white supremacists. It might be the left. I can't go so far as to say it's not the left. It probably is. But it's really the fucking feds. It's really the people who are supposed to be protecting us. They don't give a shit about protecting us. Their job is not protection. Their job is to keep us on edge and to make us easier to manipulate, to make us easier to control. That's it. That's what they do. Go look at some of this. I mean, just a basic search, and it'll pull up all kinds of stuff. Like, you will find more than you want. I know I did. I wasn't. Shit. I mean, I think I've looked, and I'm just gone through like headlines from 10 different articles that took a 45-second search. How do people not get this? Hope everybody has a great rest of your day, a great rest of your week. I will be back on Monday. I actually do have a topic planned for Monday. I just got to kind of, I got to figure out how I'm going to do it. If it works out, Monday is going to be spectacular. And if it doesn't, then Wednesday will be spectacular. And Monday will be another something like this where I just kind of ham fist my way through something that I wasn't entirely sure I wanted to talk about, but ultimately decided, you know what, it needs to be talked about. So hopefully you got a little bit of something out of this. Hopefully you learned something that you didn't know. Hopefully it terrifies the fucking shit out of you. And hopefully it also pisses you off enough that you want to overthrow some 3-letter agencies. I don't know. Have a fun one. See you Monday.